Good morning. Welcome to episode 4 of How Can I Help? I did start by calling this, but it's hard, realizing that things are hard. That's okay. But saying it over and over again isn't going to help anything. So I changed it to How Can I Help? I'd like to be helpful. So hopefully this is more helpful than, but it's hard. Sitting here in the pool house of a property in Picton. And as per usual, this is highly unscripted and highly unplanned because that is how my beautiful, beautiful body works, and I'm learning to love that, embrace it, and utilize it more effectively. Because first few things that happen is we demonize ourselves for being who we are, and that's it's helpful. It is helpful, but there is obviously a secondary gain for that, which is being able to stay in the victimhood of not challenging ourselves outside of our comfort zone, and pretending that fear is dictating everything that's happening in our lives. But that can only last for so long. 37 years might be long enough. Who knows? It's probably going to come back again, because that's how it works. Until you deal with things that are going on, they will keep showing up for you. But today I was thinking of talking about how we attach to things, attachment styles. So having been quite avoidant most of my life due to the fact of having a poor modeling of what good relationships look like, I just assume that the relationships are going to end, so I do not put myself out there to be able to be hurt, which is quite interesting. So now that I've learned and become aware of it, and starting to get a bit bored of it, it's nice to be able to sit and address it. But I do observe in a lot of relationships, especially from the outside, because I don't like to be on the inside, because that's going to be scary. I do observe a lot of people being unable to communicate with their partner, and I only observe this through not being able to communicate with myself. So everything I sort of talk about is a personal experience I've had. I have had many relationships in my life with both men and women that I have been exploring these attachments and their way of communication, and I think it's super interesting to notice when our central nervous system, is nervous, and if we're going into a fight or flight response, or if we are willing to sit with what it is that is coming up for us and take a deep breath and actually approach it, knowing that each day is a day to learn and express and grow, and it's up to us to do what we need to experience ourselves in a way that we choose. Coming from my own experience of only just recently realizing that the world is not as sunshine and rainbows and lollipops and everyone's on my team and we're all friends, it's taken me quite a while to realize that people are not here to help always. And that's just a lesson that I'm learning, because I've taken responsibility for everything in my life and thought that I was the worst person in the world, and I was like, no, it's just we all have elements of toxicity and beauty and hatred and love and all of those things. So it's taken me quite a while to realize I'm not 100% comfortable with it. I wish we could all possibly have some insight into ourselves that didn't mean that we were pushing people away all the time. But this is only an observation that I can make, because I have been that person for quite a long time. So when it comes to attachment styles, if you'd like to call that, or our way of relating, or however you want to call it, it's super interesting to sit with how we feel, because when we buy into our feelings in each moment and become reactive, where we don't give ourselves the space to understand a little bit deeper that possibly all we want in this world is love, but it is our responsibility to sit with our things and work out what that means for us. I find it quite difficult with my quick brain to, which is going to be a big oxymoron or a big conflict here. I struggle to see when people do things over and over again, but my quick brain enjoys stimulation and newness, so I find it difficult when I see people doing the same thing over and over all the time. But in relation to that, it's more of an understanding that there is a better way. So I'm unsure sometimes if I'm an asshole or if I am caring, because I do look at certain situations and go, why the hell are you doing that, and expecting a different outcome to what you're getting? And I find it quite difficult sometimes to ask those harder questions of people, because I don't trust that, for whatever reason. Am I doing it to serve the room? Am I doing it to hold people at arm's length? Does it make me weird or different? Whatever the questions are that come up, I just need to give myself the time to sit with it and understand from my own perspective why I'm approaching this for people or with people. So understanding that things are happening for me and not to me is sometimes a difficult thing as well. So if we're constantly feeling attacked by people, I would wonder why we have a defense mechanism to see that, because we are everything that we see. So when we realize that the world is a reflection of us and it's not just a big wanky thing, we are actually, our perception is our reality. So if we perceive that everybody's against us and we have to protect ourselves and nobody loves me and everyone's an asshole and everyone's going to take something from me, then that's what you're going to get. The only real way that I've found to soften with that is to go through it and understand it totally and understand why. I'm still working on it, a lot of inner child stuff apparently. I have been very reluctant to approach things without having a full understanding for myself though. There is a lot of modalities out there to help us, to work through these things, but until we are ready to sit with the deep and core issue, I find some of the rudimentary things that people are suggesting may or may not hit well at the time that you're experiencing something, just because we're trying to force ourselves through to a healing, in inverted commas, state. So sometimes if we find that things just don't feel right at the time, but people are pushing us towards it, and then we feel an expectation from externally, it's really just our expectation, or possibly we are just trying to justify backing ourselves into not having to do things when we don't feel it's right. So for myself, I've had a lot of self-distrust for most of my life. So now this weird feeling of actually having to back yourself if you feel something, and then think it, and then give yourself time, because you are changing. If we're creating new neural pathways, it's going to take repetition, it's going to take time, and it's going to be a little bit awkward, but that's okay. So it's, coming back to that, making a decision for yourself at the time, and then being okay enough with it to do it. I find it quite difficult to reach out for help because I do have a great awareness in myself, but I sometimes feel like I'm masking, which is most of the time because I'm not sure who I am anymore, which is just an interesting part of the evolution, I'm assuming, of coming back and being closer to yourself, especially if you're not used to backing yourself and you're sitting outside of the norm. I'm going to say the norm. I'm not a massive fan of normal because there's no real such thing as there, or we can decide what it is for ourselves. But outside the usual, stereotypical or higher percentage of people that create a pattern of you learn, you work, you die, sort of thing. So if you're sitting outside of that and feeling a little bit weird, strange, then that's probably a good thing, because that means that you're obviously changing something in yourself as well. Creating that consistency in that strangeness, that weirdness, I find to be a bit of a challenge. So I have found myself in bed, not doing much quite often, just trying to come to terms with the fact that it's okay to feel weird and like an outsider and doing things that people might not understand. But in saying that, I do encourage people to reach out and find those avenues that may feel more connected, but it's not always as simple as that. I have found it quite interesting, the amount of people that I've spoken to that I didn't expect to be having conversations with around, what might be penned as mental fitness, and how we fit in this world and what this world means. But then once again, with my reluctance of getting close to people because I assume that they're just going to leave me or take something from me, I have to really, really sit with and work on how to nurture myself when that happens. So in an intimate relationship, I haven't had one for quite a while. I've been quite reluctant once again to get close to people as I'm learning things about myself and being highly disgusted at the same time the way that I've been showing up for myself. yeah, in those intimate relationships, sort of intimacy, I feel is, removing the space between two people. So showing up in your ugliness and your beauty, and being accepted for all of it. But, the fucking stupid saying, you can't love anybody until you love yourself, is annoyingly fucking true. But I think it's overused because people are misunderstanding what that self-love is, because people think self-care, getting a massage once a week is deep enough love, which, if that is deep enough love for you, then fantastic. But I also still sense that there is a lot of dis-ease in this world, which might mean that people might need to spend a bit more time with themselves before they start preaching to other people how to fix, inverted commas again, their lives. But coming back to the attachment styles, it's interesting for me to sit with myself and start giving credit where it is due, because sometimes we have things that we think that we don't say, we have things that we say that we don't actually think. We have a little bit of incongruence with thoughts and behaviors and actions, and there is a beautiful model that shows all this, but sometimes there's a deeper understanding that we don't need a model to understand ourselves. We are just going to make up our own model as we go. Someone said the other day, there's no such thing as new jokes, just new audiences. So I think this is a beautiful reminder that sometimes we are just, rehashing things to suit ourselves rather than feeling like we have to listen to other people's way of doing things, which is totally fine as well. I find that I'm finding it increasingly more difficult to be around social situations that just feel toxic, and the small talk and talking about people and sacrificing your own values just to be a part of something and belonging, I find is what creates most of the dis-ease in our societies. People are unwilling to be truthful because we haven't been taught how to, which is okay. It's not blaming anyone else. It's just saying, if you want to see a change, you need to be a change and become that person that communicates more openly. And yes, it's going to look ugly sometimes. It's going to get to a point where you feel like you're just berating people all the time, or you feel like you're being too loving and too soft, or, but we are finding our own balance, and we're trusting in balance. So this little chat around getting closer to people, I think the only real way to do that is to get closer to ourselves. You might hear the dogs rustling around in the leaves down there. Taking the time with yourself. You can find as many avenues as you like. It was suggested that I give people some processes that I've gone through, which could be helpful. I get more curious on what you choose for you, and you're okay with it, right? Like, I only know things because I've experienced them. A good mate of mine asked me the other day, how do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, it's because I've been there and I've done it. So experience is the only thing for me that has shown me any things that I need. And as much as I'd love to give people a process on how to do things, I'd love for people to approach me or anybody and say, what is it that I'd like to try? Because I think the only real way that we get, if we're seeking to get deeper in ourselves, a lot of people aren't. A lot of people pretend. A lot of people think they're spiritual. I think they're bypassing. A lot of people think they're intelligent, and I think they're dumb. But, that is only a direct reflection of what I feel in myself, but that's finding balance, right? So as we find our own balance, I think it's super, super important to get self-inquisitive, self-curious, and softened on ourselves and say it's okay to explore. I'd love to share my explorations in my life, because I realize that not everyone has a breadth of experience that can show them the evidence of something being okay or different to what they expected. And the only real example I have of that is I have shown up performing the same task, whether that be work task or life task or relationship task, but I've shown up in so many different times in my life doing the same thing and feeling a totally different way about it. So that was the evidence I needed to say that it's not the task itself, it's just how we're approaching it, and what we're experiencing, and the depth of our experience and the accumulation of our experiences that has shown us that we can do the same thing, but it feels and looks and sounds and acts a lot different in each circumstance. So experience is the only thing for me that has shown me that it doesn't matter if someone gives you a process for their own life. 100% share it, love it. At the moment I'm quite against Western therapy and other such, talk therapy, all this sort of stuff, because I just feel like what I need doesn't have words. Like, yeah. Sorry. It doesn't have words, but the reason it doesn't have words is because I've put so many words in front of it before. So if we're using another process to cover up a process we don't like about ourselves, then is that helpful? Who knows? Probably not. But, that's okay as well if we're figuring that out for ourselves. Someone said to me the other day, you speak around in circles, Adam, you're very cryptic. Fantastic. You're not my audience, or I'm learning how to just say what I'm thinking without having to worry about the repercussions of someone's feedback. So I said thank you, and I'm unsure what you want from me, but you're obviously not my audience, which is totally fine. It's totally fine. And in saying that, it's not that I don't care, because I care super deeply and I take responsibility for everything, and it fucking hurts me on the inside sometimes. But in learning to share openly, we're going to realize that we've held ourselves back for a very long period of time, only due to the fact that we don't want to piss someone off, or they don't agree with us, or whatever. So we can get inquisitive with those people, and it usually is because we have two different things we're trying to achieve. One person is trying to belong and know everything, and another person is trying to be openly curious without any answers and just really good questions. So one's trying to define and one's trying to open up opportunities so that you're just communicating on a different level, and that's okay. You'll notice in a work setting as well, if I go through it all the time, where I work with people and I just have to understand what their actual motivations are, because I look at tasks that get performed and I see a process and an outcome and then something to move on to and grow from. Other people don't see that way, or that's not what they're trying to achieve. So without knowing what people are actually trying to achieve with what they're saying, then sometimes we're just having two different conversations and people wonder why we're not communicating correctly. But yes, so investigate attachment styles. I am not an expert by any means, but I do know I have a lot of traits from a lot of different styles, and I would say a lot of mine is anxious avoidant due to abandonment issues. But the only way to move towards that is to trust yourself and create a space where you can investigate and hopefully learn something about yourself in a way, and releasing the expectation that it's going to feel good, because I feel fucking horrible right now, but I also feel like I'm making changes in myself that will be longer lasting and mean a lot more than if I would have just listened to someone and did what they said. And not for the fact that I don't appreciate people's input, but if people have the assumption that this is the way you should live your life, then I would really question their level of fear in having to know everything that's going on. And once again, it's not because I know any more or less than anyone else, it's just because I'm openly curious on how I can help people to feel safer in themselves, to make a decision that means something to them. Because once you realize that there is nothing in this life other than what you are generating, then that's where the true power comes from. If we're covering up with processes of being able to distract ourselves from what's actually going on and pretending that's our healing, then for people that are more receptive to energy, we're going to call bullshit. But I'm trying not to call bullshit. It's me now realizing that I'm not calling bullshit because I'm a fucking asshole. I'm just calling bullshit because that's what my body says. So we're accepting what we choose to accept. But this has been another episode of How Can I Help? And yes, sometimes I do go around and around in circles, but it is nice to get things out in the open. So hopefully this does open up things in you to become curious in how you can create a safe space and release the expectation that things will always feel good. Embrace the things in yourself that you thought were a weakness, but are actually your strength. You reach out to somebody and get curious on how you can open up another avenue and just get a little bit closer to somebody. I'll leave you with a quote, and I don't know if it was Abe Lincoln or not, but I do remember reading it when I was over in the States, and it said, I don't like that guy very much, I need to get to know him better. Which is a super interesting thing for me, because you watch how many people that you walk up to and go, ooh, I don't like that person, and that is usually just a reflection of the things in yourself that you don't like. So if you can get closer to that person, then you can actually create a little bit more ease in your body, and then you don't have to be so judgmental. If you can catch yourself in the judgment, become aware of it, and understand yourself better, then you might realize that that judgment is just unnecessary or has taught you something. Otherwise, you can just keep doing it the rest of your life, and I'll probably have to just call bullshit. I do the same thing too, so I'm learning how to let people call bullshit on me. It's not as easy as it sounds. But yes, episode 4 of How Can I Help? So let me know how I can help, if I can. If not, keep listening, give your feedback if you want to. If not, stay quiet, and I'll just assume nobody is listening. I love you guys heaps. I hope you take care of yourself and can create some space for yourself to breathe and love and be strong. Bye-bye.